We're here with Wanda Manning, the author of Inherited Sin. Would you tell us a little bit about this book that you wrote?
Yes, Inherited Sin is about actually generational curses. A son tries desperately not to inherit the same nature of his father, but the more he tries to resist it, the more he becomes his father. And he kind of has a hatred towards his father. So he really is trying to resist this urge to be his father. But like I said, the more he tries not to become his father, the more he becomes his father. So that's basically the gist of the book.
And he didn't, why wouldn't he want to become like his father? I mean, most of us would like to be like our father.
Yes, but as a child, he saw all the things that his father did that he did not approve of.
Oh, so he wasn't a good father?
No, he was not a good father. And that's where it comes in as inherited sin. It's like some of the bad traits that we pass on to our children, sometimes we're not even conscious of. Like David passed on different sins to his sons. Well, in the book, this father passed on some really negative traits to his son.
Okay.
And the son saw how he was abusive to the mother in different areas. And he said that he would never be like that. But fame and fortune came into the son's life, and the more popular he became, the more he became replica of his dad.
Yeah. And so really it's the story, you're really tracing this man's story, correct?
Yeah.
And he was a man who basically had a desire to get free from these things that he believed in his heart were wrong. These things that he never wanted to be, and yet they came upon the very thing that he didn't want came upon him.
And you know that's biblical. The very thing you fear came upon him.
Right.
And that's what. And the amazing thing about the book, such as in life, is God uses the negative things in our life to work out for the good.
Right.
And that's what happens in the book. All the bad things that he had encountered, they turned out to be work out for the good in his life.
Well, how did they do that?
Well, I'll tell you the end of the book if I tell you that, but I'll just give you a little bit snippet of it.
Okay.
The young man had a problem with women, and it shows how he overcomes that. And in the end, how he began to treasure his wife. Instead of being a womanizer, he becomes to appreciate his wife.
Right. Now, you know, C.S. Lewis once said, what makes a story really good, what makes it really resonate with a human being is a term he called eucatastrophe. And we all know what a catastrophe is, but the prefix eu is a Greek prefix for good. And he said the reason why it's a catastrophe that suddenly turns good, when everything seems impossible, when everything seems like there is no hope, all of a sudden it turns around and breaks through for good. He said that is what makes a good story, because that is the story of redemption. That is the story of what happened at the cross. Would you say that that's kind of what we discover in this story of yours?
I would say yes, that is. Because at this person's breaking point, when he was about to give up on life, when he was about to give up on, he grew up in the church, but he never had a relationship with God. And when he came to a point in his life, he needed something bigger than life. He had to turn to God.
Right.
So that's how it is in life for many of them. And in the story, that's what happens to the young man. After everything, when there was no more money, when there was no more fame, when there was no more help, he had to turn to God, who is really the person that we should always turn to anyway. But sometimes in life, we have to go through all these different channels in order to get to God. And that's what makes it real. Because it's like a real life adventure that someone might have.
Right. Now, I mean, we're just hearing about this book. It sounds like one, you know, any adult could read this, and it will through fiction, it will actually inspire them to find a way out from whatever it is that's troubling them. But especially for maybe parents of young children, not children, but teenagers and young adults, that they want to get this book for their children because it will show them the way beforehand.
Yes, yes. You know what? So often we try to protect our children for what's to come in the future. I mean, we've been down that road. And we try to say, don't go down that road because this will happen and that will happen. But sometimes they tune us out. But this book is like, they can read it and it can come over them without them even being aware of what's going on. So it's like indirect experience, but it can tell them directly, but it's in an indirect way.
Well, maybe, but you know, like Martin Luther, he said the second best field of study besides theology, I mean, he's obviously a preacher, is music. And you think, well, why would he say that? Well, God understood the same principle. After he gave the law to the children of Israel, he said, here is a song, the song of Moses, because I know what's in that. You're going to forget what I told you. You're going to forget what I spoke to you. Just like, you know, how many sermons, I'm a preacher, so, you know, I preach many, many sermons. And as just for fun, I often like the very next Sunday say, okay, what did I speak about last Sunday? Just, yeah, you're squirming now just thinking about that question. And God understood that that's the way people are. So he said, here's a song because I know what will happen. That song will get into you. That song will stir something deep that when you've totally forgotten everything I've said to you and you go into captivity, all of a sudden you're going to remember and realize what those words of that song are saying. And it's kind of the same thing that a story, a fictional story that draws people in, that really connects with them as a human being, has that same kind of power to impact a life in a way. It's like investing in a person in a way that it can come out at that moment that it's needed.
And you know what I like also what you were saying about the song? When you think about a song is repetitious. You know, the chorus line, you repeat it over and over and over. So it resonates in you. And even once it gets in your psychic, you don't even have to think about it anymore. You can be driving down the street and all of a sudden it comes to you. So I can see how God wanted his word to be like a song. I can see the analogy in it because it's repetitious and it goes over and over and over and over. Well, in the book, you know, you're talking about a person's life and you're constantly reminding this person over and over and over about the things that they're doing that's against the will of God. So you're seeing it over and over and over and over again. So again, you can come back to it because it's like it replays over and over in your mind.
Like I mean, I have a confession. When I was in high school, I loved fiction books. And I would start reading a fiction book and it would hit midnight and I'd say, oh, I better go to bed. I got to go to school tomorrow. Set that thing down and I'd say, I got to know what happens next. I'm just going to read one more chapter. Then, I'm not exaggerating, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm still reading that book. And the next day at school, I'm sleeping in the first hour of class. And I can still remember those stories that I read. And I have friends of mine who they can remember these fictional stories that they read when they were kids because it connects with them at a much deeper level than just a simple intellectual teaching. And it has that deep transformational power when you connect with a person at that level. And so really, I think that what I'm hearing about this book is it's going to do the same thing for people.
Well, that comes when you're doing your character development because that's the dream of every author. It's for someone to be so drawn into a book that you can't put it down. I mean, that's my goal when I'm sitting here writing. I'm trying to do all that I can to make sure that the person that's reading this can't put this book down. So that's the goal of every writer, to hear someone say, I couldn't turn the light off, I couldn't go to sleep, and even once I went to sleep, the characters, they haunted me. I wanted to wake up and see what was going on. So I'm praying that was my goal, and as a matter of fact, several people have told me they've experienced that, so I'm excited about it.
And so when you wed that kind of skill and craft in a fiction writing, book to a message that has the potential to change people's lives for good, now you're really, fulfilling a biblical mandate to be shrewd, to really bring blessing, to bring transformation to the world.
And I really think I accomplished that with the book because that was one of my goals. Because in the book, you're seeing how, don't take this road, go down this path. So I think that I accomplished that in the message. Because in the end, the person that glorifies God.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, the person that gets the glory out of the book is God.
Right.
And at the very end of the chapter, it's almost like a witnessing tool. Choose God.
Right.
And if you choose God, some of the sins that we go through, some of the decisions that we go through in life, we can avoid them if we choose God from the beginning.
Right.
And another thing that I appreciate about how God helped me with the book was generational curses. Sometimes that's just a taboo. People don't want to talk about that. But it is true. There are actually some things in our DNA that we can pass on to other people. Earlier, a guy was telling me that if you're an alcoholic, you have to wait 5 generations before you have a drink, because there's a chance that you can pass this gene on to your kids or something like that. I didn't get the gist of it. But the thing of it is that there are actually things in our DNA that we can pass on to our children. So, we have to be prayerful when we come together with a partner. Is this a crack? We better check this person out. Check out the family, because we come together to create a soul, an eternal soul. Yeah. So we should be cognizant.
Right. So in a way, this is almost like genetic re-engineering here. If I'm suspecting correctly, that not only does it tell the story of a person, overcoming, but it's actually even giving them the key to overcoming, which is those curses are broken in Christ.
Yes, they're broken in Christ. They're broken in Christ. And it's nothing to be too leery about.
Right.
Because we all have.
It's the truth.
Yeah.